All right. I feel a little silly doing this, to be honest, but it's part of the bigger vision, and this will be the inaugural episode of the new JCS Show. I started a different podcast, which I originally called the JCS Show, and I since renamed it to Quality Values. The core question on that podcast is, what are the values in the context of your story? And so the JCS is my initials. Initially, I made the name about me, but I wanted the name of that to reflect the bigger mission of that podcast, and so it represents the values. This is going to be a podcast about me. That's what makes me feel a little silly, but it aligns with my goals, and I'll get into that towards the end of the episode. But I'm going to talk about a couple topics today. It'll be a short episode. I'll talk about this podcast briefly. I'll talk about the CJI tournament, the Jiu-Jitsu tournament that just happened. I'll react to that. It was pretty dramatic, pretty interesting ending. Talk about the One Punch Man workout and why I like that a lot. And I'll talk about why I like podcasting in general, and then I'll get into the end vision of what I'm trying to do with all the content I'm creating. So, intro to this pod. This will be just a space where I get reps. Honestly, at least initially, I see this podcast mostly being for me to get on here, practice talking about topics, practice my delivery, work on executing storytelling in a more engaging way. I think that's my weakness right now as a podcaster. I've heard myself for a ton of episodes now. I think my strengths are asking questions, and usually I don't have to do much of the talking. Usually I'm just asking the questions, and my goal in general is to talk as little as possible and get my guests to talk as much as possible. And so I just nudge them back on the topic or off into a tangent if I think necessary. So in some sense, it's easier to do a podcast from that side of the table since you don't have to talk as much, but in other sense, it's more difficult since you got to pay attention to what's missing from the conversation and make sure you're moving into those directions. Make sure you're avoiding redundancy, boring topics. If it gets flat, you gotta. So the whole time, I'm kind of like trying to monitor: is this engaging? Is this valuable information? Are people going to be wanting to continue watching this? Whereas when you're talking, you don't have as much time to consider all that. It's more about telling a story. We all talk all the time. We know what it's like to try to be engaging. So that's what it's like, and that's the side of the conversation that I want to work on, hence starting this podcast. So jumping into the CJI tournament. I thought it was a cool tournament. Honestly, I'm a big fan of Craig Jones. Everything he does, I think is hilarious. I think is well thought out. He's got a good mission and hilarious gimmicks and tactics along the way to execute the mission. So I thought it was a big success. Initially when I was watching it, I thought it was I thought New Wave was going to win the decision on points. B Team won. I don't think it was rigged, but everyone everyone in the stream I was watching was just comment rigged, and it felt like a scripted rigged ending. But I think what he's doing is brilliant. He's bringing in a lot of the pro wrestling concepts, bringing that into jiu-jitsu. If jiu-jitsu is ever going to take off from a monetary standpoint, I think it's going to be by either Craig Jones or someone who's kind of following the same vision that he is of focusing on the entertainment value. I think that's what Dana White did really well at the UFC. And so Craig Jones is trying to do the same thing. There's a lot of roadblocks. He's up against big dogs with the UFC. They're not letting him use their jiu-jitsu athletes. They've got Mike Musumeci and Andrew Tackett and some of the top guys. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it all plays out over the next few years. I wouldn't be surprised if Craig Jones is done. I don't know if he really wants to be the promoter. I think he fell into it, and he's really good at it. But I could see him just stepping away, and if he does, I don't know if other people are going to carry on the CJI or some other version of it, like in the spirit of it, that has the same blend of entertainment and competitive jiu-jitsu. So we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, I thought the tournament was great. I thought the matches were awesome. Bunch of high level. I preferred the format of the first year. Just the traditional bracket. It's 1v1, working your way to the middle of the bracket. I like that. I thought that was more entertaining. I thought guys were going for the finish a little bit more. Yeah, I missed not having the Ruotolo brothers in it. They're my favorite guys to watch, and so I thought, yeah, it was just a little less exciting in the actual matches. I only watched a bit of the first day. I watched most of the second day, but yeah, I thought it was a success overall, even though it was kind of a goofy ending. I hope Craig Jones disappears potentially forever. I always love it when these guys retire, like Calvin Johnson just out of nowhere, Andrew Luck out of nowhere. If Craig Jones just disappears out of nowhere, I just think that's cool. Yeah, you gotta respect it. If you've earned it, you've got the means to disappear. You don't need anyone. I think that's always kind of a boss move. All right, so the One Punch Man workout. So I watched One Punch Man. It's an anime. I don't usually watch anime, but some of my friends are into it, and they put it on, and it was honestly awesome. So I'd heard of the One Punch Man workout, but I think just seeing it and getting a feel for actually its base, I honestly wasn't sure where it originated. I just heard of the workout. What the workout is 10K run, 100 push-ups, 100 squats in a day. And I've been doing it. Today is the 5th day in a row, so I've got a mini streak going. The run for me is the hard part, mostly because of the time. If I run slow, I can run for a long time, so I can get the distance if I run slow. But either I've been running late for work and trying to not run slow to get my distance in the shortened time I have, or it's been a difficulty to figure out getting an hour or an hour plus of running into my day when I've got a busy schedule. I've been breaking it up, both the push-ups, the squats, the strength portion and the running portion. So I just, every 24-hour period from 12 midnight to 12 midnight, I try to tally up all those things. I'm working night shifts right now, so yeah, sometimes I'll finish up my last set of squats at 11:30, and then I'll do my first set of squats at 12:30, just an hour later. But yeah, so far I've been able to get it in every day. It's mostly just an execution thing, honestly, and that's what I like about it. There's no equipment required. There's no weather. No, you can go outside and run anytime. I even have access to a treadmill, so if it did rain or snow or something like that, I wouldn't have an excuse. Push-ups and squats, it's just air squats. I did some weighted squats when I went to the gym, and I added them to my tally for the day, but it doesn't have to be, so you can do them anywhere. I did them in the bathroom at work just to get my last 20 squats last night, and just because I didn't want to be doing squats on the clock when people were asking me for help. I'm a bud tender. I'm serving up dabs at a dab bar here in Nashville, so it's a fun job. Bud tending, dab bar tender is a fun job. It's helping me along my goals with podcasting. That's my next topic here. I'm starting another podcast here. This will be currently my 3rd podcast. I've had slight involvement with other ones, but I do the Quality Values podcast. I do the Nervous System Training podcast with Quentin Torres. That's about the Marinovich training techniques. And this is just going to be a podcast where I rant about business, art, entrepreneurship, training. But I like podcasting. It's got a very low barrier to entry. I'm paying for this Riverside software that I use. You can do a podcast for free easily. This is just a convenience. That's all. I have a camera I've used for some of my in-person podcasts. I have this mic, which I got for recording something else. But you don't need fancy stuff. You can get started right away. That's not like releasing music where you have to buy licenses and pay every year. You can just put it out there and it's posted, it's published for free. So low financial barrier to entry, low technical barrier to entry. The editing for podcast is much easier than editing, like if you're doing a YouTube channel, like with creative storytelling videos. For my podcast, I cut the end, cut the beginning, do the coloring, do the audio. Sometimes I do an intro. If it's an episode I'm really excited about, where I'll take the highlights, throw them in the beginning, throw a little, this is the Quality Values podcast in the middle, and then start the conversation from the beginning. But a lot of episodes, I just start from beginning to end, throw a logo in the corner. It's about the easiest video editing you can do. And it leads to opportunities. The new podcast I'm doing, the Nervous System Training podcast, is with Quentin Torres, who I had on my podcast. Just having a podcast is an excuse to have a conversation with someone. It's an excuse for the algorithm to give you a shot in spreading your content and growing your channels. There's minimal downside. It's unless you put out something really raunchy, really edgy, you're not gonna lose a ton of followers by any one content you put out. You're not gonna ruin anything you've built. So you've got an opportunity to build with minimal risk of breaking it down. So my entertainment library, my channels keeps growing. I don't know what it'll turn into, if it'll turn into anything. I'll admit I've had very limited financial success from the podcast, but the opportunities to talk with very interesting people, I've learned a lot. Like I felt my brain change over the course of the conversations, and you have to take into account. I don't know how I've probably done about 75 or 100 episodes between the two podcasts. So a lot, but not a ton. And just in that time, like for each episode, there's a lot of effort that doesn't even go into the episode. That goes to reaching out to people that don't respond, or to reaching out to people that respond but don't book a date, or to reading some book that I found because it is on the topic of a guest I had that they recommended. Reading the book of a guest before they come on. There's like all this effort that goes into the podcast, and each episode, each topic I choose to talk about, each guest I choose to have on is it's me choosing a little bit about the next direction I want to move into intellectually. So it gives me some sense to dictate my own direction as I grow as a human, and I grow my knowledge base, and I grow my network. So I like that. It's different than just going to some event or meeting your friend's friends, because there's more intentionality to it. It takes a lot of effort. You got to find someone who's willing to do conversation. If I'm doing a podcast like this, I still have to make the time to sit down, and then on the back end, edit, publish. If I'm going to do thumbnails, titles, all that is added time as well. So it really makes you stop and consider, what do I want to spend my energy doing? Is it going to be worth it? Because I know any decision I have, if I decide to have someone as a guest on my podcast, it's a 1 hour conversation, but that's probably 5 or 6 hours of effort on that topic minimum. And it could be much more if I go down a rabbit hole and end up reading books, which is the best case scenario. The best case scenario is I get 20 hours of structured direction in my growth. So yeah, it's made me more intentional. And that kind of brings me to the end vision. That's the last topic I'm going to talk about today. The reason I started my podcast, as well as I can remember, honestly, people have asked me, and I don't fully remember, but I'm pretty sure it was because I wanted to meet athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs. I wanted to collaborate with athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs. those are always the people I found the most interesting. I always considered myself some combination of those things. I love any content about those people. I've just eaten it up my whole life, and so I just wanted to be surrounded by that. And like I said, podcast gives you the intentionality of direction. So I knew I would be able to choose whoever I wanted to talk with. And my long-term vision, it started growing when I was younger as a traveler, is to build communities of tiny houses where there's communal gyms, communal studios. There's the resources there for athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs to have everything they need to make progress, to focus, have the space, well designed, comfortable space, but efficient, small. And I'm a trainer. I'm into nutrition, so there's going to be gym for and high quality, organic, whole foods, grass fed, red meats, organic produce, and all that. Yeah, so I want to just have a space where these types of people can go. So this image started forming. I've stayed at a bunch of different hostels and hotels, and there's this one lady in Costa Rica, La Tigresa. She's a retired professional boxer, but she kind of had this set up. She had little tiny houses and a gym. She was just renting it, by the night, by the week. But mine would be for people to go for 4 or 6 months, extended stays, but not permanent, to really focus on leveling up in some aspect of their craft. This is kind of a self-help retreat for select individuals. Ideally, the ultimate version would be its application and it's free. And I would create content and, have my own income streams that I promote with the content to support the finances of maintaining that space, having the resources, everything from the food to the mineral water to the wool mattresses, the linen sheets, like everything organic, everything high quality. Soundproof recording studios, everything dialed in. That's the end vision. So I started my first podcast as a way to start meeting the types of people that I would have in these communities. I've been running with that. That's led to the Nervous System Training Podcast, which is really getting me more into the training niche. I would say that's, of the athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs, I'm definitely the most keyed in so far on the athletes. I've been a trainer for the last several years. I do train martial arts and sports, and that's a big part of me. So that's the part I'm the most advanced at. But I ultimately feel that expressing myself in all three of those ways is what's going to lead to the most engaging life. I like to be present. I feel the best. I feel the happiest. I make the best impact on the people around me when I'm really engaged in the moment as I go from moment to moment. So moments where I'm doing something related to business, sports, and art, those have always what have drawn me into the moment the most. So trying to build a life around that, and this is just a little piece of the puzzle. So hopefully this isn't too cringy. Hopefully as I do this podcast, the new JCS Show, I'll find more ways to make it useful. Other people will it'll be more useful for other people. I think initially, as I said in the beginning, this is just going to be for me to get my reps. So the beauty of YouTube is everyone can just click off. But yeah, anyone who has watched, I appreciate it. I feel a little silly doing this, but it's one for the archives for now. First episode of the JCS Show. Thank you all. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it.